Welcome back, friends. We're here for Chapter 13, Thunk. Now, if you're enjoying The Midnight Gang by David Walliams as much as me, remember to click up there where you can get your own copy or find another one of his books, and also some other great books that will give you quite the adventure as well. All right, let's get started with Chapter 13, Thunk. The bigger the dream, the better, said George. I am talking, said Amber to George. Sorry, replied George. It's sorry, miss, purred Robin. So you better start thinking of what your dream is, Tom, said Amber. Something you've always wanted to do. Have you got one? I wish school dinners were nicer. Boring, said Robin. Well, I guess I'd like to be excused from cricket matches from now on. Tedious. Well then, I wish I didn't have double maths on Wednesday afternoon. Please, please, wake me when he's finished. I don't know. I can't think of anything. Come on, Tom, said George. Surely you can think of something. Thinking is not my strong point, but even I thunk something. Sadly, though, the boy's mind was blank. It seems I was right all along, exclaimed Amber. Sorry, Tom. You are just not cut out for the Midnight Gang. Your trial period is over. No, protested Tom. Yes, replied Amber. Give me another chance, please. I can't think of something. No, said the girl. There's no point you being in the Midnight Gang unless you can think of a dream you want to come true. Let's vote. I say we don't let Tom in our gang. Boys, do you agree? I vote Tom can stay, said Robin. What? Demanded Amber. As long as he agrees to push your wheelchair until further notice. Yes, if Tom pushes the wheelchair, he can stay, agreed George. You two are so annoying, said Amber. Right, it looks like you are staying and pushing. Yes, exclaimed Tom. Right, come on, get up. The boy did as he was told. Now, spin me around and push fast. The boy pushed Amber along the corridor as fast as he could. Faster! She shouted. Chapter 14, Deep Freeze. The four children traveled along corridor after corridor in the basement of Lord Funt Hospital. They passed the boiler room. Tom peered in as he struggled to push Amber in her wheelchair. Inside was a giant water tank the size of a swimming pool. Coming in and out of the tank were huge copper pipes which rattled and hissed. Next, the children passed a dark, dank storeroom. Again Tom peered in. It seemed to be full of nothing more than old junk. A ripped hospital mattress was lying on the floor. The gang pressed on. Finally, a sign ahead of them read, Deep Freeze. Here we are, announced Amber. Tom was only wearing his pink frilly nightdress. You're joking, he exclaimed. What do you mean? Replied Amber. We can't go in the deep freeze, protested the boy. As they opened the door to what was a giant freezer which stored tons of hospital food, Amber said, We're not going into the deep freeze. We are going to the North Pole. The North Pole? Asked Tom. He looked toward Robin and George, but they did not react. What do you mean we're going to the North Pole? It's always been my dream to be the very first girl to go to the North Pole, said Amber. As soon as I am out of this hospital, I am going to be a world-famous explorer. I am going to be the first girl to reach the South Pole, too. I want to sail solo around the world. I want to climb the highest mountain, dive down to the very bottom of the sea. I want to have adventures beyond your wildest dreams. Tom stood silently listening, wishing he could dream this big. He had always been quiet and even rather timid at school. Tom never wanted to stand out. Now the boy was being asked to reveal his big dream, and to his shame, he realized he didn't even have one. Then Tom asked, Were you exploring when you broke your arms and legs? George gave Tom a look as if to say, Don't go there. As for Amber, she looked extremely annoyed at being asked this question. If you must know, she began. It was a mountain climbing accident. Well, that isn't strictly true, is it, dear? Said Robin. The girl was starting to look uncomfortable. Well, all right. I was doing mountain climbing training. That still sounded impressive to Tom. I wouldn't exactly call it mountain climbing training, said Robin. What would you call it then, clever clogs? Snapped the girl. I would call it falling off the top bunk, answered Robin dryly. Tom tried hard not to laugh, but he just couldn't help himself. He burst into helpless laughter. Laughed George. Within moments, the rather dry Robin was laughing too. Silence, the lot of you! Screamed Amber. Seeing how angry this was making the only girl, the boys laughed even more. I'm waiting, she said, sounding rather like a teacher. Eventually, the laughter died down, and Amber announced, Now, come on, you silly boys. We are going to be the very first children to reach the North Pole. George beckoned Tom to help him, and gather the pair slid open the huge metal door to the freezer room. A blast of Arctic air hit the four full in the face. As the cold air met him with warm air, a white mist was formed. At first, the mist covered everything. Slowly it cleared, and at last the children saw the most magnificent sight. Chapter 15: The North Pole. The children's faces lit up as they saw the North Pole. It wasn't the real North Pole, but it was an incredible recreation of it. Inside the hospital's freezer room, there were inches of snow on the ground. It must have been made from all the flakes of ice that had gathered in the boxes of fish fingers and bags of frozen peas. There were snowdrifts and ice caves and even an igloo. A fan stuck to the ceiling swirled the air around, blowing little pieces of ice about the room. It looked like it was snowing. The snow sparkled in the fluorescent light from the corridor like diamond dust. Wow, said Tom. It's beautiful, said Amber. This girl had always seemed to be the toughest of the group, but now Tom could see Amber had tears welling in her eyes. Please tell me what you see, said Robin. In this moment of wonder, the children had quite forgotten that, since the operation on his eyes, Robin couldn't see a thing. His bandages had to stay on 4 weeks yet. It's perfect, replied Amber. How? Asked Robin. Robin, there is snow everywhere, said Tom. It's falling from the sky. Oh, I can feel it on my face. And there's a snowdrift and even an igloo, said Tom. And I don't believe it. Look here, Amber. Leaning to the far side of the igloo was a Union Jack flag. It was attached to a wooden pole that looked as if it had been snapped off a building. Perhaps it had been snapped off the side of the very building, the Lord Fund Hospital. That must be so you can place it in the snow, said George, like adventurers do, to prove to everyone you were really ill. Place what in the snow? Demanded Robin eagerly. A flag, replied Tom. Sorry, I should have said. Pass it to me, ordered Amber. Tom carefully placed the flagpole in her hand. The girl tried to place it down, but as her arms were in cast, she couldn't. I can't do it, said Amber, clearly frustrated. Let me help, said Tom. No, she snapped. Let's forget the whole thing. This is stupid. It's not stupid, said Tom. I thought you were said the Midnight Gang was all about children working together. It is, replied Amber grumpily. Then let me help. In fact, let's all help. Let's all do it together. Good idea, said George. He guided Robin's hands to the pole, and together they all stuck the end into the snow in the middle of the room. I hereby declare myself Amber Florence Harriet Lottie to be the very first girl to reach the North Pole. Hooray! Cheered the boys. Thank you, began Amber grandly. I really do need to thank a few people. Well, here she goes, said George. Oh, this may take some time, hissed Robin to Tom. Amber loves making speech. Thank you mostly to myself, without whom none of this would be possible. So humble, remarked Robin. But I would also like to take this opportunity to thank my old friends and new friend in the Midnight Gang. It might not have been the real North Pole, but the look of pride on the girl's face was certainly real. Tom looked across this mini Arctic wasteland. As the mist cleared, the boys saw that the hospital food that was normally stored in the freezer room had been piled up onto one side and covered in ice to disguise it. This begged an important question. Who had done all this? Just then a shadow passed the gang. Someone or something had moved past the doorway. What's that? Asked Tom, a note of terror in his voice. What's what? Asked George. Someone's there, he spluttered. Where? Asked Amber. Outside the door, answered Tom. It was nothing, said Amber. If it was nothing, then go out and have a look, said Tom. There was silence for a moment. Well, I can hardly go out and check in my wheelchair now, can I? Replied Amber. I could go out, but I'm not. But the looking pot I would find hard, said Robin. All eyes turned to George. I would love to go, just as soon as I've finished this tub of ice cream, said George. He had chocolate ice cream around his face, and he dipped his hand into the tub to get another scoop. Now all eyes turned to Tom. I can't go, he exclaimed. Why have I not? Demanded Amber. The boy looked down to his pink frilly nightie. In this? That's hardly a good excuse, replied Amber. Girls have to wear nighties. Let's take a vote. All in favor of Tom going to see who it is, put their hands up. Predictably, the other boys raised their hands. Mine would be raised too if I could. So that's settled then, said the girl grandly. Off you go, Tom. But, he protested, do you want to be made a permanent member of the Midnight Gang or not? She asked, already knowing the answer. Yes, but, then get out there, she ordered, right now. The ice underfoot was getting slippery now, and Tom nearly fell over with each step. Slowly he reached the doorway to the freezer room. Tom peered out to the left. He couldn't see anything. Then he peered to the right. Out of the shadows came something, the unmistakable figure of a polar bear. It growled. Screamed the boy. And that will do it for today's reading. So, tune in tomorrow to hear Chapter 16, Polar Bear. Now, again, continue the adventure. Click up there, find yourself a book, maybe even this one up there as well. And I can't wait to see you next time to figure out what in the world is going to happen next. Have a great day, guys.